Hi, my name is Rosemary Mascali. I chair the Education Outreach Committee for Drive Electric Long Island. Welcome to our Electric Vehicle EV101 seminar, covering the basics of EV ownership. Drive Electric Long Island is a coalition of electric vehicle stakeholders led by the U.S. Green Building Council's Long Island chapter, and we're dedicated to encouraging the adoption of electric vehicles and electric vehicle infrastructure. Members of our coalition include environmental groups, colleges, utilities, and companies, all working together to electrify transportation in order to improve our air quality and reduce greenhouse gases on Long Island. To learn more about our coalition, go to our website, www.driveelectriclongisland.org. I'd like to start with a brief video to get us thinking about what life might be like if everything ran on gas.
What if everything ran on gas? Then again, what if everything didn't? The 100% electric, zero gas Nissan Leaf. Innovation for the planet, innovation for all.
Take for granted that cars need to run on polluting gasoline, but with today's EVs, that's no longer the case. We'll get started on our seminar now. Today's topics will include the history of EVs, EV basics, environmental considerations, EV charging basics, incentives, common misperceptions, learning resources, and where you can ask further questions. So we'll start with a brief history of EVs. Some people think that EVs are a new innovation, but that's not the case. The first successful EV debuted in the United States around 1890. It was created by a chemist in Iowa named William Morrison. It was a 6-passenger vehicle with a top speed of 14 miles per hour. By 1900, electric vehicles actually made up a third of the vehicles on the roadways. Passenger vehicles in the early 1900s were available in 3 different fuel types: gasoline, steam, and electric. Electric was very popular, especially with women, due to its quietness, limited fumes and emissions, and ease of operation, as compared to gasoline vehicles. But then Ford released its Model T in 1908, which sparked the decline of EV popularity due to the Model T's low cost. Its cost at the time was about $650 compared to an EV's cost of $1,700. Then by the 1920s, gas became very cheap and readily available, roadways expanded, and EVs became a less favorable option because of their limited range and speed. After the launch of the Model T, EVs went into the dark ages until the 1960s. In the 60s and the 70s, the U.S. faced soaring oil prices and gasoline shortages, which sparked a newfound interest in electric vehicles. In 1976, Congress passed a law which authorized the Department of Energy to research electric and hybrid vehicles. However, even after this research, EVs still could not compete with a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. Shortly thereafter, gasoline prices dropped, gasoline became more abundant, and continued improvement of the internal combustion engine hampered demand for the EVs. Fast forward to the 1990s, when new federal emission regulations sparked another interest in EVs. At this point, EVs had improved performance as compared to the 1970 elders, with an improved range of about 60 miles. During the 90s, GM produced the EV1, pictured in this slide, which, although it had a high following, never was mass-produced due to high production costs. Again, EVs fell to the wayside due to lack of public interest. But even with the lack of public interest, the Department of Energy was still working behind the scenes to improve EV technology, including batteries. Then in the late 1990s, EVs began to see a new beginning. The Toyota Prius, it's pictured, was mass-produced in Japan in 1997 and gained significant popularity among celebrities in the US. Then Tesla became a very successful company after their startup in 2006. This spurred other big automakers to accelerate their work on their own EVs. In 2010, Chevy released the Volt, a plug-in vehicle, and Nissan released the Leaf, a fully electric vehicle. With public interest in EVs growing, the Department of Energy initiated the Recovery Act, which led to the installation of over 18,000 residential and public EV chargers across the country. And now, as of July 2nd of this year, there are over 235,000 EVs in New York State. We surpassed 60,000 EVs here on Long Island. You can see from the graphs that steady growth in EV original owner registrations over the years, with accelerating growth in the last few years. Of the 60,880 EVs on Long Island, 63% are full electrics and 37% are plug-in hybrids. In 2023, EV registrations accelerated rapidly in many Long Island communities, as displayed in this map. This map illustrates the communities on Long Island with the fastest growth in electric vehicles over the last 6 months of 2023. In the communities marked, between 15% to as many as 25% of total original registrations were EVs. And across the whole island, there were increases in the percentage of total registrations that were EVs as well. So now that we know about EVs, how prevalent they are on the roadways, and adoption increasing, let's talk about EV basics. There are 3 types of electric vehicles. Starting at the right of this chart, over here, there are hybrid electric vehicles that most people are familiar with. These are low-emission vehicles that use an electric motor to assist a gas-powered engine. All energy comes from gasoline, and these vehicles are not externally charged. In the middle, you see the plug-in hybrid vehicles. They're similar to the hybrid, that there's a gas-powered engine, but with a larger battery and electric motor to assist. It has a gas tank and a charging point that can use level 2 chargers to charge the battery. And then over on the left are battery electric vehicles or full electric vehicles. These are powered solely by an electric motor and battery with no gas engine components or gas tank. Most battery electric vehicles are capable of fast and level 2 charging and have 0 tailpipe emissions. I'll be speaking about charging a little later in the presentation and all the forms of charging. Here are some examples of battery electric vehicles on the market. There are over 40 models of full electric models available in all body styles and price points. You can get sedans, crossovers, SUVs, pickup trucks, vans, ranging from 125 miles of range to over 400 miles of range. The costs of these BEVs range as well, from a low of $28,000 for a Nissan Leaf to over $80,000 for a Tesla Model S. The range of these vehicles vary as well. The Nissan Leaf has a range of 226 miles, while the Tesla Model S has a range of about 400 miles. Most new EVs, like the Volkswagen ID4 and Ioniq 5 pictured, fall in the mid $30,000 to $40,000 price range and have a range of about 250 to 300 miles. Here are some examples of plug-in hybrid vehicles on the market. Similar to the full electrics, there are many plug-in hybrid models available today in all body styles and all price points: sedans, crossovers, SUVs, pickup trucks, and vans. Here are some examples. The costs of the plug-in hybrids range from $37,000 for a Mitsubishi to $69,000 for an Audi A7. The range of these vehicles vary as well. The Mitsubishi Outlander has an EV range of 24 miles, which is how long it can go on pure electric, and an overall range of 320 miles if you count the miles you can then transfer over to gas. The Ford Escape has an EV range of 37 miles and an overall range, gasoline included, of 520 miles. Many new plug-in hybrids fall in the mid-30s to low 40s price range and average 25 to 30 miles of range in electric mode and 400 miles of range overall. Now, here are some more considerations about electric vehicles. EVs are very quiet. It's one of the nice advantages of an electric vehicle. You can sit in the car and actually hear the other person talking. In fact, EVs have to emit a sound at low speeds to alert pedestrians to their presence. Second, EVs have fast acceleration. And this is particularly useful when getting on highways or changing lanes. The reason they can accelerate fast is because of their electric motors and their single-speed transmission. EVs can produce full torque from a standstill. Torque is the force that drives the vehicle forward. EVs also have a single-speed transmission, so there's no need to shift gears, allowing for faster and smoother acceleration. You'll notice that when you test drive an EV, the acceleration of an EV. EV batteries have an estimated 10 to 20 year lifespan, or 100 to 200,000 miles on average. In fact, by federal law, EVs are required to have at least an 8-year, 100,000-mile warranty, while some manufacturers provide a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Should the battery fail after that, battery replacements typically cost about $10,000 or less for a full replacement, but EV batteries actually consist of many small batteries that can be replaced as needed. Another feature of electric vehicles is there's a decreased operating costs, and that's because there's so many fewer parts in an EV than an internal combustion engine. There's no oil, there's fewer moving parts. Even updates are often done through over-the-air software updates sent directly from the manufacturer, needing less need for costly trips to maintenance shops. Another consideration with EVs is EVs use regenerative braking. This is a mechanism by which EVs capture energy as they slow down your car and use it to recharge the vehicle's battery. This also results in much less wear on your brake pads than that of conventional vehicles. There are certain vehicle features and load. Certain vehicle features and load can impact range in EVs. For example, when driving an EV in cold climate, drivers can expect some decrease in overall range if they're using heating accessories in the vehicle. Also in the summer, when you're using the air conditioner. This is because these accessories are using some of the battery to run. And so some of the battery capacity that would typically be used to drive the car is being used to run the accessories. Also, if you have additional load, so in the winter, like this heavy snow and you haven't cleared it off, that can decrease the range of the vehicle until it's cleared off. Batteries have a certain temperature that they best perform at. What I found in driving an EV is that in the wintertime, I get a little less range, but in the summer, I'd actually get better range because it's more in the temperature that the EV, the battery likes to operate in. So the average that you'll get rated for the car is for the whole year, and you'll in our climate on Long Island, you'll see a little less in the winter and a little bit more in the summer in terms of what they call miles per kilowatt hour. Now let's talk about the cost of electricity versus the cost of gasoline. On the left, this illustrates gasoline and electricity costs per gallon equivalent from 2000 to 2022 in the US. This pink line that's going across is showing the price of a gallon of gasoline equivalent for electricity, and this is the price per gallon for gasoline. So one thing you notice is that electricity varies very little in price. And for this US average, it was $1.54 over that whole time span with very little variation up and down. On Long Island, it's a little higher because our rates are a little higher than the US average. Gasoline, on the other hand, as we all know, varies quite a bit depending on what's happening around the world. And we've seen spikes and we've seen prices coming back down. But on the average, over these years, the price of a gallon of gasoline was $3 per gallon. So that's the price of a gallon of gasoline equivalent, which is the same energy you need if you express it in miles per gallon, is half that electricity than of gas. And you can see that illustrated on the right. This is a sticker from an EV, a midsize EV, that's showing the fuel economy of the midsize EV. You can see that the rated fuel economy for this EV is 118 miles per gallon combined, with 108 highway and 127 city. That's one of the nice features about electric vehicles, is you actually get better fuel economy driving in traffic and in city traffic. And that's because of the regenerative braking. That energy that you going, stop and going is going right back into the battery. Its estimated fuel cost is $550 for the year. And compared to other mid-sized vehicles, you're saving $6,500 in fuel costs over 5 years. So substantial savings in using electricity to fuel your car with an electric motor than using gas with an internal combustion engine. Now I'd like to talk to some of the environmental considerations. This chart illustrates the average electric vehicle emissions of an EV when charged in New York. EVs and plug-in hybrid electrics running only on electricity have zero tailpipe emissions, but emissions may be produced by the source of the electric power, such as a power plant. In geographic areas that use relatively low polluting energy sources for electricity generation, like New York, plug-in hybrids and EVs typically have lower emissions than similar conventional vehicles running on gasoline or diesel. In New York, most electricity is generated from natural gas, nuclear, hydro sources, meaning that EVs have a much lower carbon footprint than their internal combustion engine counterparts. The average annual CO2 emissions of New York's, in fact, is about 1,700 pounds of CO2 equivalent, whereas gasoline vehicles produce about 12,600 pounds of CO2 equivalent on the average. Now, some people wonder about the overall sustainability, including the associated electric batteries production. Researchers at Argonne National Lab estimated emissions for both a gasoline car and an EV with a 300-mile range. In their estimates, while greenhouse gas emissions from EV manufacturing and end of life are higher, total greenhouse gases for EVs are still much lower than those for a gasoline car, as illustrated by these graphs. The blue bar represents emissions associated with the battery and creating the battery. The orange bar encompasses the rest of the vehicle manufacturing. So you see the orange on both sides. That would include extracting materials, manufacturing, assembling other parts, and vehicle assembly. The end of life, and also end of life recycling and disposal. The gray bar represents upstream emissions associated with producing gasoline for electricity. So this is the greenhouse gases associated with producing electricity for an EV. This is the gray producing the greenhouse gases for extracting and producing gasoline. And the yellow bar shows the tailpipe emissions during vehicle operations. So you see that including all of the life cycle greenhouse gases, the EVs still have substantially less greenhouse gas emissions than a gas car. And the gray on the EVs will only get less and less over time with that for that same vehicle as the grid becomes greener. On Long Island, we're moving towards solar, big offshore wind. And so as our grid becomes greener and greener, then the greenhouse gases required to produce that electricity go down. Whereas in a gas car, the yellow here, or the is the same from the day that car goes on the road till the day it's 10 to 15 years later when it comes off the road. It will be using all of that that gasoline and emitting all of those pollutants and greenhouse gases. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about charging options. So EV charging is a lot like charging your phone. At the end of the day, you plug it in, the next morning, it's all charged up. And charging at home is the most convenient and economical way to charge your home, to charge your car at home. I want to talk about a little bit about the charger types. So there's level 1 charging. Level 1 charging is when a driver plugs their car into a standard wall outlet. It's the most basic type of charging. Level 1 charging is a convenient way to charge, especially for people who don't drive a lot each day and are able to charge at home. Most EVs come with a level 1 charger cable. Level 1 chargers add 2 to 5 miles of range to the vehicle per hour of charging, depending on the efficiency of the car, which often meets the needs of many drivers who drive the typical 40 miles a day. So if you plug in your car at 8 o'clock, by 8 o'clock in the morning, if you have an efficient EV, you're getting 60 miles of range. If you have a less efficient EV, then you'll get maybe 20 miles of range. So that might not be sufficient for you. So depending on your car and depending on how frequently you drive, you may or may not find level 1 charging sufficient for you. I happen to have only used level 1 charging, and it's worked out fine for me. You see this in single-family homes. You see it in multi-unit dwellings and condos. Second level of charging is level 2. Level 2 charging utilizes a 240 circuit, like the kind used for electric dryers. They add more range to a vehicle per hour than a level 1 charger, about 10 to 30 miles per hour, again, depending on the efficiency of the car. Level 2 chargers are most often found where vehicles are parked for a significant amount of time, where charge speed does not matter as much, like at home or at work. You can also find level 2 chargers in public, such as malls and shopping centers. The fastest way to charge your EV is with a level 3 charger, or DC fast charge. DC fast chargers use a much larger grid connection and deliver DC power directly to the vehicle, resulting in a much faster and more powerful charge. DC fast chargers can add between 150 to 350 miles of charge per hour. EVs can charge from 0 to 80% in as little as 15 minutes to as much as 45 minutes, depending on the vehicle. DC fast chargers are typically used along highway rest stops for extended road trips, along transit routes to fuel electric buses and at major shopping centers to meet the needs of drivers who live in multifamily dwellings who can't charge at home. Now, there are different types of connectors that your car might have. There are 4 types. 3 are for DC fast charging and 1's for level 2 charging. The industry standard is the one in the middle, CCS, where all new manufactured passenger vehicles were using that CCS connector. However, most recently, manufacturers have now said that they will move to the NACS standard, which is the Tesla standard, and provide adapters for existing CCS to the NACS. The Tesla standard connectors were found exclusively in Tesla vehicles. Because Tesla was one of the first EVs on the market with fast charging, they designed their own connector before the industry standard came out. Tesla sells adapters for their EVs that allow Tesla drivers to charge their EVs at non-Tesla chargers as well. The J1772 plug is used for actually level 1 and level 2 charging. Level 1 and level 2 charging are slower than DC fast charging and primarily meant for charging over a few hours, as we just spoke. The J plug, as it's affectionately called, is used by all EVs except Tesla for AC charging. Tesla vehicles come with an adapter to use this connector. And the one on the left, Chatamo, is an older Japanese manufacturer standard. Its connectors work with Nissan Leaf, Mitsubishi Outlander, and some older models of the Honda, Subaru, and Toyota. As you can see from the graph, the number of publicly available EV charging stations has increased dramatically since 2010. To date, there are now over 10,000 public level 2 charging ports across New York State and over 1,600 DC fast charger ports. On Long Island, there are almost 600 public level 2 charger ports and 354 DC fast charger ports. With the planned support of the NACS standard, all DC fast charge ports will be available to all EVs by the end of 2025. Now, you might wonder where these ports are located. There are several charging station locators that can provide that information. One of the most commonly used is the Alternative Fuels Data Center, pictured here. Other popular locators are apps, PlugShare, and ChargeWay. These locators show all public charging stations and details about each station, including the location, the charger type, if it's a level 1, a level 2, or a DC fast charge, the connector type, if it's Chatamo or CCS or the NACS standard, the payment type, if that's applicable, and the available hours. One interesting aspect of EVs to note is that most have the mapping technology built in and will tell you where the nearest chargers are located. Chargers are part of charging networks, such as Tesla, Electrify America, EVgo, and EV Connect. Users can pay for the electricity by credit card or by joining various EV charger networks like EVgo, EV Connect, ChargePoint, and others. Payment is made via phone app or cards, or by cards that you swipe on the charger to unlock the unit. Now I'd like to talk about some of the many incentives available for EVs and for EV charging. There are many incentives to encourage people to go EV, some of which include the Federal Clean Vehicle Credit is up to $7,500 federal tax credit for new EVs. There are certain limitations, such as the source of battery materials, country of assembly, income level, and vehicle MSRP. Your dealer can tell you what incentives are available, and there's also a website that can tell you, and that's referenced in our resources. For leased vehicles, there's also manufacturers passing along their federal commercial clean tax credit, which can result in reduced leased payments for EVs. So if the car that you're interested in is not eligible for the federal tax credit, you may be able to, if you're open to leasing, get that credit indirectly through lower lease payments. So keep an open mind and go and talk to your dealer. New this year is that these credits are available at the dealer. You don't have to wait to file your taxes the year after. They're called it's at the point of sale. So you could potentially use the credit towards a down payment and finance the rest. There's also a up to $4,000 federal clean credit for used EVs. That's new, and that's also available at the point of sale. So you could use the credit towards a down payment. There are again certain limitations, such as it has to be sold by a dealer, the age of the vehicle, MSRP, and the income level. More details about that could be found on our resource page. New York State has another rebate, the Drive Clean rebate. It's up to $2,000. It'll be $2,000 for EVs with a range greater than 200 miles, $1,000 for EVs with a range between 40 and 199 miles, $500 for EVs with a range less than 40 miles, and that would typically be your plug-in hybrids. And then all of these rebates are capped at $500 for EVs with an MSRP value greater than $42,000. And that's New York State's way of trying to distribute the rebate as broadly as possible and to those that need it the most. Another advantage or incentive for having EVs is you get access to the HOV lane, regardless of how many people are in the vehicle. You also can apply for the Green Easy Pass discount, which gives you discounts on the bridges. There are also rebates for charger. PSEG offers a $200 rebate for a level 2 residential charger, with it increasing to $300 for residents in disadvantaged communities or customers in the household assistance program. These can be purchased via the PSEG online marketplace, or you can submit a receipt for qualified chargers, and they have to be Energy Star certified. Another incentive to go EVs are PSEG's time of day rates, which we'll all be moving to next year. PSEG Long Island offers time of day rate options with discounts for charging overnight of 40% off the standard rate on a super off-peak plan. You can visit the PSEG Long Island website for more information. But basically, during the week, the off-peak, super off-peak are from the hours of 10 p.m. To 6 a.m., where the rates are 40% off, and anytime on the weekends and federal holidays. The only time you pay more than what you're currently paying is during the peak hours, and that's what they're trying to get us to do, is to move off using electricity during those peak hours, which are from 3 p.m. To 7 p.m. weekdays. So the EVs, you can use the EVs themselves or EV chargers to program your charging so that you don't charge during that time. And to get the most discount, you could program it to charge during the overnight hours. With a level 2 charger, that should be no problem at all to get even a full charge during those off-peak hours. Now I'd like to talk to some common misperceptions about EVs. There's a common misperception that EVs don't have enough range. This is going from old times. You know, I mentioned back in the EV1 had a range of 60 miles or something. That's not the case today. The average EV today has 250 to 300 miles of range, with some over 400 miles of range, significantly higher than the daily 40 to 50 miles a day of the average driver. So EVs have no problem at all meeting the daily needs of drivers, especially here on Long Island. Another misconception that EVs are just as dirty as conventional internal combustion engines. As I mentioned earlier, that's simply not true. Electric motors actually convert 75% of the energy from the batteries to power the wheels, whereas by comparison, internal combustion engines only convert about 20% of the energy stored in gasoline. The rest of that's going out, being wasted into fumes. What's more, EVs emit no direct tailpipe pollutants. As we discussed earlier, even when considering lifetime greenhouse gas emissions, EVs emit much lower greenhouse gases than gas cars. Another misconception is that EV batteries won't last long and will eventually wind up in landfills. As I mentioned earlier, electric vehicles are federally mandated to carry warranties for their battery packs for at least 8 years or 100,000 miles, and many manufacturers offer 10 years, 100,000 miles. According to published reports, Nissan Leaf models that were used as taxicab retained 75% of their battery capacity after 120,000 miles on the road. One Tesla owner is said to be able to have 90% of his or her car battery life intact after 200,000 miles. Once depleted, EV batteries, like 99% of batteries found in conventional cars, can be recycled in one of 3 ways: smelting, direct recovery, or repurposing. With smelting, they're processed to recover basic elements or salts. Direct recovery, components are separated by physical or chemical processes to recover materials and metals. And for repurposing, given a new life in other battery-powered products, like energy storage or lighting for streets. So these battery components are very valuable, and that's what drives recyclability. And so they will not end up in the landfills. Another misconception is that driving an EV won't save money in operating costs. That's simply not true. This is a study that was done on the 10-year savings of an internal combustion engine versus an electric vehicle. This chart shows the 10-year savings for EV maintenance versus gasoline versus EV maintenance versus gasoline. For oil changes, we start from the top. We have many oil changes needed in ICE vehicle, not needed for electric vehicle. We have fluids that need to be changed that don't need to be changed in electric vehicles. Tires are about the same. Mufflers, you need change in an electric vehicle. There is no muffler needed on an electric vehicle. There's no catalytic converter to get stolen. There is at least one less brake change that you'll need on a conventional vehicle than an electric vehicle because of regenerative braking. You might need transmission servicing over that 10 years in an internal combustion engine. There is no transmission on an electric vehicle to be serviced. There's plugs and tuning possible on an electric vehicle. I mean, on an internal combustion vehicle, not on an electric vehicle. And these savings over the study ranged from $3,200 to as much as $4,670. So that on top of the gas savings, you're talking about $10,000 at least over the 5 to 10 year period. And another misconception is that, oh, but the power grid is not going to be able to handle all the EVs expected down the road. Well, utility companies are well aware of the coming increase in EVs and are planning for it. According to a report conducted by Navigant Research, the nation can add millions of electric cars to the current power system without having to build any new power plants. Much of this has to do with the fact that most electric vehicles tend to be charged at night during off-peak hours when power demand tends to be the lowest. And here on Long Island, as part of their mission, PSCG Long Island forecasts how much power is needed to meet the summer peak hour demand. This chart shows the peak demand that occurs on Long Island in the summer. Each year, demand has actually decreased, as shown by the black chart, the black graph, as customers adopt more energy efficient appliances, adopt renewable energy sources like solar, and shift their energy use to off-peak hours. As more Long Islanders buy EVs, PSEG will continue this planning for how much power is needed for EVs to ensure there is ample infrastructure in place. Now I'd like to review some of the additional learning resources available for you to continue your learning. One is our resource page on our Drive Electric Long Island website. We have many links there that can help you find an EV that's right for you, more detail on incentives, research reports. Welcome you to go to that page. The Alternative Fuels Data Center has the location of charging infrastructure, in-depth information about EVs. There's the New York State Energy and Research Development Authority, NYSERDA, website that has a wealth of information on EVs, EV chargers, incentives, forecasts, and general information about EVs. And we recently came out with a State of EVs on Long Island report that's also available for download at the website that has a lot of statistics about EV adoption on Long Island. Who are the dealers selling EVs? What are the popular models? A lot of interesting information and resources as well. And I'd like to thank you for your time. This is the end of our presentation. Often we do these presentations at libraries where we would have an interactive Q&A with EV owners. Since this is a recorded webinar, I welcome you to email me or give a call if you have a question, and we'd be glad to get back to you with answer to any of your questions. And I look forward to seeing you on the road with your EV. Thanks.